Okay, this could be nothing, but I gotta do some crowdsourcing here and ask for a little audience participation to try and figure out if I stumbled onto something that's actually real or just a glitch that has an easy explanation because this technical stuff is kind of beyond the scope of my ability to understand it currently. And I did try. I looked into it and I couldn't get an easy answer about what may or may not be going on. So without blabbering about what it might be anymore, I will just tell you what I want to tell you, which is on the screen here is the iPhone 4S, which I had as my phone from like 2013, 2014 until 2019, 2020. And when I finally got a new phone at the beginning of 2020, obviously they disconnect your old phone so that it's no longer getting connected to the network. And at that point, it's kind of a dead object. You still have all the things that were saved on there, but you can't do anything more with it. Like many of you, I'm a creature of habit in certain ways, and I had been using this phone as an alarm clock. And I deluded myself into thinking, yeah, if I have it on airplane mode, that's fine. I can use it as an alarm clock. I'll just put it over across the room, and that forces me to get up when it goes off at 4:50 a.m., whatever time it was, at that ungodly hour I had to get up at my old job. So when I got a new phone, I just kind of decided, you know what? I'll just keep using this as my alarm clock because I'm not using it for anything else. And the added benefit is it's not connected to the network anymore. So it's just like a battery powered alarm clock of any other kind. Essentially, that's what I thought. I mean, that's probably not true. It's probably still connected in subtle ways to the networks. But anyway, that's what I did. I kept using it as my alarm clock, but I stopped plugging it into my computer to download things from it, pictures, whatever, all the things you do to take stuff off of your phone. If you're like me and you don't have it connected to the cloud, you're not using wireless anything. You're kind of behind the times in that way. So that's how I was with this phone. And I didn't have it connected to any of that stuff. I didn't even have my email active on it. To the point where if I had a picture that I wanted to send in an email to somebody, I had to connect it to my computer, download the picture, and then send them an email through my desktop computer with the picture attached. Most people now, with their phone, everything is set up there. And if they get a picture, they can just instantaneously share it with somebody or attach it to an email through their phone. But I wasn't doing any of that. Now, this is very important. When I got my new phone, I had no reason to connect my iPhone 4S to my computer anymore because there was nothing left to download. I transferred everything and it was just a dead object at that point. No use to me other than as an alarm clock. And a very interesting thing happened along the way. Like I said, this was the beginning of 2020. Well, I noticed after a couple years of using my phone as an alarm clock like this that the time was different on my iPhone 4S than on my other phone or my computer or anything else that's connected via the internet to the time. And I started to become very interested in this because after about 3 years, at the beginning of 2023, my iPhone 4S was a full 10 minutes behind my new phone, the one that I use right now, that's connected to the network and it's automatically updated, which is in sync with your computer's clock that is connected to the internet. So I begin my investigation. What is going on here? What is causing this to transpire? And I start looking for information about anybody else experiencing this kind of thing, and I don't see anything. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably a very rare occurrence because no one is still using an old phone like I'm using it. And it was the weirdest thing because the time was slowly getting out of sync, leading up to being a full 10 minutes out of sync. And obviously, this became very clear to me when I needed to set my alarm to account for that. Oh, this is 10 minutes behind. I got to set it for this time to be up when I want to be up. And I got used to that over the years and started looking into it. Wasn't getting any answers because it was so strange how when daylight savings time would come around in the fall and in the spring, my phone that wasn't connected to the internet or anything else, wasn't connected to the network carrier anymore, and was a full 10 minutes behind, it would account for daylight savings. So I'm sitting here thinking, how is this possible? How does it know to account for daylight savings still, but it doesn't know what time it actually is? My intuition would be, okay, there's some program running in here that's always going to run that knows when daylight savings time is, probably hundreds and hundreds of years into the future because they programmed that into it. And it will always do that. But in that case, why is the time not doing the same thing? And then the really interesting thing happened, which I won't bore you with the details of everything that surrounded it, but suffice it to say, I got in this situation because I don't keep up to date on everything in the way most people do, where the only way that I could send someone a picture was to use my old phone that I use for my alarm clock now, the iPhone 4S, to take a picture, and then I had to upload it to my desktop computer to send it in an email. And I did this for the first time in over 3 years, maybe a couple months ago. So it was almost 4 years ago. Was the last time it was connected to my computer. And the craziest thing happened. As soon as I connected the phone to my computer, it corrected the time difference. And then it was like, oh, well, now it's right back in sync. So then my wheels really started turning, and I'm thinking, okay, I like to consider various conspiracies from time to time. You know, it's a fun thing I do. And I'm thinking to myself, now wait a second. Is it possible that the powers that be who control the digital time are slowly speeding us up minute by minute by minute in a very subtle way, in a very frog in the boiling water kind of way, where it's so subtle and so slow that we wouldn't even notice 10 minutes were gone from our day. But just slowly over time, they're speeding up our clock. They're making it go just a little faster day by day by day, to the point where 3 years go by and we've lost 10 minutes and we don't even know it. And then we all anecdotally share stories. Man, time sure does go faster these days, doesn't it? Oh, that's just because you're getting older, bro. Don't you know? Time goes faster when you get older. Oh, okay. But this could be a very real example of them doing that in a subtle way that none of us are aware of. And the reason I'm doing this video is to hopefully get a rational explanation for why this is transpiring. But I have to put it out there because this could be going on if there is no rational way to explain this. If somebody who knows about these things can't figure it out, it's like, well, yeah, this might be a conspiracy that's going on. We all feel like time is speeding up a little bit, and I think that's because of our over-reliance on technology, because our brains just aren't constructed to consume as much information as we are capable of consuming on the internet. And we just can't process time correctly when we're doing that. So you spend all this time on the internet or on your phone, and you look at the clock and say, oh, wow, I can't believe how much time went by. And then you just amplify that by days and weeks and months, and you look at the calendar one day and it's January, and then the next time you look at the calendar, it's March 7th, and you say, wait, what? It's already March? That's not possible. That's how we're all going to feel after New Year's comes and goes, and it's going to be April before you know it. We're all going to say, where'd those 4 months go? So all I know is I had this iPhone 4S that, for all intents and purposes, was still functioning in every way that it's supposed to, other than the fact that it slowly lost track of the official digital time when it was not connected to that at any point. It just slowly got out of phase with it. And maybe that's something internal with the phones that they have to be connected to stay up to date, which doesn't kind of jive with the daylight savings time still working and every other part of it still working. But hey, maybe there's something along those lines going on. Or the alternative is maybe the digital time that's constantly updated by whatever official source does that is slowly stealing minutes away from us without us even knowing. And how would we know, right? Because, for example, I just experienced the power going out, and all of the clocks that I had that were connected to an outlet, they didn't work anymore, and I had to fix the time. Well, what did I do? I looked at my phone, and I said, oh, it's this time. And then your digital clock that isn't connected to the internet is on that time, and you never notice it getting out of phase because you constantly think your phone has the right time. That would be the control we would need. We would need somebody to have a battery-powered clock that isn't connected to anything, and we would just have to sit there and watch it for 3 years, don't touch it, don't let it be disturbed in any way, and see if it got out of phase too with the digital time eventually. And most people, if that happened, I think if it was subtly a couple minutes here or there, they would eventually fix it. Whether it was in a power outage or some other time, they would look at that and say, oh, that's off by a couple minutes, let me fix that. And they wouldn't think to observe it in the way that I'm describing here. So part of doing this video is to make people aware of that too. Maybe you can start that experiment on your own if you have those things and kind of pay attention to that. And we'll see over the years if we're getting out of phase again. Because I have to start the experiment all over now that I ruined those 3 years and the 10 minutes by connecting it back to my computer. Which would be a very similar subtle way to do it if something got out of whack and wasn't working correctly. Well, as soon as you connect it to the device, oh, now it's fixed and nobody thinks twice about it. So just a little interesting thing that happened to me that I wanted to throw out there just in case anybody else has experienced something similar. And maybe you want to start this experiment with me and noticing if we're bleeding time on purpose here. So that's it for now. Later.